I'm going to explain why Larry Kane is absolutely the Zodiac killer. Or they call him Lawrence Kane. He went by Larry or Kane. But one of the biggest pieces of evidence, I'm not going in order, but one of the biggest pieces of evidence is the fare on the cab added up in 1969 to 3.2 miles. Larry Kane lived 3.3 miles from where the cab was found. So he was picked up almost in front of his house. He seems to be near either where the victims live or where the victims were found every time. People identified him as being at Lake Berryessa at the time of the Cecilia Shepard murder. He was identified by the sister of Pam, or rather Darlene, as the man that was at the painting party, and they discount the sister's testimony, but she said something that proved that she knew who Kane was. He had brain injuries, which caused him to have an odd smile, half smile and half paralyzed face. So it gave him an odd smile, and she stated he had a half smile and the other side of his face was like a mask. She wouldn't have known that unless she knew him, and because one side of his face was paralyzed due to brain injury. Excuse me. So the police discounting her ID was a huge mistake on their part. Also, if you look at the cipher, my name is, there's a K in there, an A, an N, and an E. So Kane is scrambled in that cipher. Multiple people have identified Kane positively, and other people have said that Kane resembles the man. Police officer Rourke, who saw him 30 years earlier, said that Kane looked more like the suspect than anybody else he has ever seen. Not a positive ID, but he resembled him. He said it's been too many years. Mike Mageau at first identified Arthur Allen. Later he identified Larry Kane. I think Mike Mageau's testimony can be discounted because, he identified multiple people. And one more huge piece of the puzzle. People remarked on how the Zodiac had a very odd walk, a shuffling gait they called it, and it spoke in monotone. Well, according to a doctor of neuroscience, this is something that will happen if your left frontal lobe is damaged, which Kane's was. They said it would cause a shuffling gait and odd speech patterns. which both were marked on the Zodiac, and Kane is the only one that had brain injury in the right place. With this, the identifications, the inability also from the brain injury to control his urges. He was arrested at the time, at the height of the murders, for prowling, as if he was looking for a victim. And I think there's enough circumstantial evidence that at the very least they should have searched his house, because he was always a strong suspect. And many cops agree with me that if they had to pick one, they would pick Larry Kane as the murderer. I think there's enough circumstantial evidence that a logical person should be able to see that in all likelihood Larry Kane is probably the Zodiac killer. And when you consider that blonde hair dye was seen in the house by friends, that pretty much clinches it. But people can make their own judgments. I know who I will never believe anybody else is guilty. I will always believe Kane is the Zodiac. There's too much evidence against him. And he moved to Nevada in 1971, moved back to California in 74, and in those 3 years there was no letters from the Zodiac. And in Nevada, murdered women were found where, once again, Larry Kane was a suspect. You know, why is Larry Kane a suspect in all these murders if he didn't commit any of them? Just a little something to think about. But I think there's enough circumstantial evidence that it's possible he would have been convicted in a court of law. And I stake my reputation on that. Thank you and have a good day.